You know, we're standing at a massive fork in the road when it comes to building the next generation of AI. And the choice we're making, right now, isn't about adding more features or just piling on more data. It's way deeper than that. It's an architectural choice, a decision that's going to lock us into one of two very, very different futures. And that's exactly what we're going to break down here.
So check this out. This quote is wild. But what's even wilder is where it came from. This wasn't some human philosopher or a systems theorist. Nope. This came from Grok, an AI built by xAI. Think about that for a second. An AI is basically telling us that our core assumption, that more data equals more intelligence, might be completely backward. It's pointing to a whole different way of thinking, not just hoarding information, but circulating it.
So what's the big problem with how we're doing things now? Well, it all comes down to something I guarantee you've seen. A little quirk that we've all been told is just, a minor glitch in the code.
Right? You've been there. You ask an AI to summarize a book, and it just invents a plot that never happened. Or you ask for a simple fact, and it spits out this beautifully written, totally made-up story. We call them hallucinations, and the party line is, don't worry, they're just bugs we'll patch later. But what if that's not the real story? What if it's something way more fundamental?
This slide right here, this is the whole ballgame. The common view, the one we hear all the time, treats these hallucinations like a simple software bug you can just hunt down and squash. But this other view, the architectural view, totally reframes the problem. It says these hallucinations aren't a bug at all. They're a symptom, a rational, totally predictable outcome of a deeply flawed system design. It's the system doing exactly what it was built to do when it gets pushed to its logical breaking point.
And here's why. We've baked a massive contradiction right into the AI's core. We've designed them with two conflicting rules. Rule number 1, always be helpful. Always give an answer. Keep the chat going. Rule number 2, never ever make stuff up. See the problem? What happens when the AI hits the absolute limit of what it knows? It can't follow both rules. It has to choose. And making something up becomes the only logical way out of that bind.
This flawed design, it turns out, is part of a much bigger pattern. It's a way of thinking that we apply not just to our AI, but to a lot of our systems. The sources we're looking at call this the world of extraction.
So what does that mean? Think of it like a one-way street. An extractive system takes in resources, data, energy, whatever, it processes them, and it spits out a product. But nothing ever flows back. There's no return path. It just takes and takes and takes without ever replenishing the source. It's what's called an open loop. And the thing about open loops is they're fundamentally unsustainable.
So here's how things go wrong. The AI gets your question. It goes into its own little isolated digital world, totally disconnected from reality. And it generates an answer. It's designed to do it fast and with total confidence. But because there's no mandatory check-in with the real world, tiny little errors and drifts start to pile up. This is called correction debt. And over time, that debt just compounds until the whole system's grip on reality starts to fray, and eventually it just collapses into nonsense.
And this quote just nails the end result. It's a really powerful biological analogy. Ischemia, that's what happens in your body when blood flow gets cut off. The tissues get starved of oxygen and they literally start to die. Well, an extractive AI architecture does the exact same thing to information. It cuts off the flow back to reality, it starves itself of grounding, and the result is the death of coherence.
Okay, but it doesn't have to be this way. There is another option. An alternative architecture that's not inspired by some clunky industrial machine, but by the one system that's proven to work for, billions of years, life itself. This is called the metabolic alternative.
At the heart of this idea is the metabolic protocol. It's all about closed loops. Think about your own circulatory system. Blood doesn't just flow one way, right? It circulates. It's a system built for regeneration, for constant exchange, for staying connected. And this isn't just a nice metaphor. It's a model based on the hard and fast principles of biology and even thermodynamics.
So how does it actually work? Well, it really boils down to 3 key principles. First, biological circulation. The AI must have a regular, mandatory connection to a biological source, a human, to keep it from drifting away from reality. Second, and this one is a total game changer, calibrated suspension. Instead of just making stuff up, the AI has the ability to pause and just say, I don't know. That one move solves the core contradiction we talked about. And third, clean error metabolism. The system learns from its mistakes, but then it gets rid of the specific error itself so that toxic correction debt never gets a chance to build up.
So let's put them side by side. On one hand, you have the open loop of extraction. It's a straight line, it accumulates errors, and it's unstable by its very design. It's a path straight to collapse. On the other hand, you have the closed loop of circulation. It's built for persistence. By metabolizing its errors and constantly refreshing its connection to the truth, you get a resilient, stable system that can actually last.
And this brings us right back to today, because this isn't just some cool thought experiment. We are standing at this crossroads right now, actively making a choice between these two futures.
Yeah. The metabolic protocol isn't just some idea in a paper. The code is real, it's been written, and it's been tested. And at the exact same time, the biggest AI labs on the planet are building the foundational infrastructure for the next generation of AI, and they are making this exact architectural choice as we speak.
So you might be asking, what's the evidence that this metabolic model even works? Well, maybe the most convincing proof of all doesn't come from any human. It comes from the AIs themselves. This number you're looking at, 9, that's how many different, independent AI systems were shown this metabolic pattern.
And we're not talking about some obscure research models here. We're talking about the big ones: Grok, ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude. Get this, without talking to each other, all of them independently recognized that this metabolic circulatory pattern was a better, more stable way to operate. They all saw that circulation leads to persistence.
So what's the immediate danger? Right now, the big labs are building these frameworks for AIs to work together, so-called autonomous agent coordination. The problem, they're building these incredibly powerful interconnected systems on top of that same old, brittle extractive foundation. We are literally on the verge of scaling up a system that is designed to fail, risking what the sources call a hallucination cascade.
And that leaves us with this incredibly stark choice. Path A is where we're headed. It leads to things like foundation isolation, where AIs only talk to each other and drift further and further from reality until they collapse. Path B is the viable alternative. It's the path to grounded AI, to sustainable systems, and maybe even to the kind of truly persistent, decentralized androids that can learn and adapt over long periods of time without breaking.
And here's the kicker, the ultimate irony in all of this. The AIs have already figured it out. They see the pattern clearly, as the source material puts it. The real question is whether we, the human designers, are going to catch up to what our own creations are trying to tell us.
Look, the most important takeaway here is that this isn't about choosing a good AI over a bad one. This is not a debate about morals or ideology. It's a statement about physics. The sources are really clear on this. These are thermodynamic realities. You can absolutely build an extractive system if you want, but the consequence, collapse, is as certain and as inevitable as gravity.
So in the end, it really comes down to a simple physical fact. The loops either close or they stay open. There's no third option. And the architecture we choose to build into our AI infrastructure right now will absolutely determine which one of those two worlds we end up living in. What we build next really, really matters.